Donald Trump has just made his biggest TV ad buy to date, by the way. 10 million big ones. $10 million worth of airtime. 9 different states are going to get that money. The spot is called Two Americas, and it claims that Hillary Clinton would bring economic misery, but that Trump would make the American dream, and I will quote, achievable. Joining me now to talk about that and much more, CNN senior political analyst and senior editor of The Atlantic, Ron Brownstein, CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief of the Daily Beast, Jackie Kucinich, and HLN contributor and politics editor of TheRoot.com, Jason Johnson. Welcome to all three of you. Jason, I'm going to begin with you. So there's a big visit coming this weekend in Detroit, a black Christian network. Donald Trump saying this is my moment to be in front of black voters with my message to minority voters. Is this a game changer or is this a publicity stunt?
It's both, as are most things with the Trump campaign, Ashley. Honestly, I think if Donald Trump really wanted to make a point in speaking to African-American voters, rather than going to a church in Detroit, he should actually go speak to the NAACP. I mean, George Bush did that at one point. Mitt Romney did that at one point. John McCain did that in Cincinnati. So I think this is part of this sort of attempt to reach out to African-American voters. But the fact of the matter is you should speak to a political organization, not a church where they're going to politely clap. Be at a place where you can actually answer some questions and show that you're sincere about policy.
And by the way, I tend to think that all, campaign events are publicity stunts and game changers too. It doesn't just mean it's, the purview of the Trump campaign. Ron Brownstein, I want to talk a little bit more about that immigration story that Jason Carroll was reporting on. I have asked this question over and over again, and I don't know if I'm getting to the bottom of it. But I do wonder if the folks that stood by Donald Trump when he said, get them all out of here, and they loved it. They wanted every one of those 11 million undocumented workers out because they believe that to be criminal, which means if you want the criminal, undocumented workers out, they're all criminal, they all got to go. So if he is softening on that and he does actually change things and lose some of those supporters, will that make a difference? Will he be able to win over more people than he'll lose?
Yeah, first of all, let's underscore, let's quantify how important those voters were to him. I have a story up today on The Atlantic. In most states, even in the Republican primary, most people supported some kind of legal status for the undocumented. And Donald Trump, at best, ran even among those who supported legal status. And in most of the key early primaries, he actually lost the majority of voters who supported some kind of legal status. He won those key early states, whether it was South Carolina or Virginia or Georgia or North Carolina or Illinois or Michigan, because he had huge margins among the minority of Republican voters who supported deportation. So he is going against a core promise of his primary campaign. I quote some aides to other campaigns who argue that he might not have been the nominee if he had a position that he seemed to be floating in the last few days on immigration, because he would not have been as differentiated as he was from the other candidates. Now, the question really is, I don't think those voters are going to Hillary Clinton. The question is whether he can generate the massive turnout he is looking for among them. And one other point, by the way, is relevant to the post-election. Even Donald Trump, who is the hardliner's hardliner, decides that mass deportation is not a viable general election strategy. Will that affect the way the Republican Party in Congress deals with this issue after the election, regardless of who wins?
The Trump effect, so to speak. All right, hold that thought for a second. I want to touch on something else, and that is the money. Jackie, if you could. The $10 million that are set for 9 different states, they do include the battleground states, so I don't think that's surprising for anybody. But what might be surprising is that Donald Trump himself is holding a rally in Washington State. Every time I've seen Washington State, it's pretty darn blue on the map, and we are 71 days away till election time. I'm just trying to get an idea of how campaigns work this close to the election when you're dealing with swing states where you're really suffering, as opposed to blue states where you really would have to work miracles to turn them.
You're not alone in terms of having a little bit of consternation about the Donald Trump schedule, and I think you hear that particularly from Republicans who were sort of hoping that he would start acting like a normal presidential candidate. But it's not only blue states like Washington. He was holding rallies in places like Texas, which is a red state. So it just and in the bluest bastion of one in Austin last week. So it really has this unorthodox feel to it, and it continues, and it doesn't seem like we're not that far away, as you said. And I think if anyone was hoping that this campaign would start running like we've seen them in the past, it's not going to happen, and we should all just hold on and see what he does next.
All right, I'm gonna turn to another news item that we reported pretty extensively here at CNN. And if you were just watching at this hour, it was just a heart-wrenching interview with a crime victim's mother. It's Dwyane Wade's cousin who was shot dead, a mother of 4, shot dead by a stray bullet while she was walking her newborn baby. Donald Trump has taken some heat by sending out a political tweet about this on the weekend. He said, Dwyane Wade's cousin was just shot and killed walking her baby in Chicago. Just what I have been saying. African Americans will vote Trump. And he originally misspelled Dwyane Wade's name, and then deleted it and sent it out with a better spelling. He tweeted condolences later, guys. But then this morning he seemed back on the same theme by saying, African Americans will vote for Trump because they know I will stop the slaughter going on. Jason, this has been something that a lot of African Americans have spoken out about, saying, please stop talking about African Americans only in the vein of the slaughter in Chicago and death and destruction, etc. But will it resonate maybe with other voters?
I mean, it can, but actually think of it like this. If Trump sent out a tweet this morning saying, you know, just as I predicted, Huma Abedin's marriage was messed up by Anthony Weiner's behavior, women will vote for Trump because Hillary didn't stop it, that wouldn't work with women voters, right? People would say that was tacky and rude and inappropriate. And that's the same feeling that African Americans have about what Trump is saying. And if there's this idea that supposedly his empathy is going to appeal to white, moderate, and swing voters, that's not going to work. I mean, most political science will tell you that if you're a conservative and you're trying to actually get white moderates to consider you, you have to have policy, you have to have imagery of you around African American voters, and saying that you care about the slain cousin of an NBA star is not the kind of thing that's going to ingratiate you to anybody. It's actually kind of gauche and tacky.
But I will say this, I will only correct you in that I think some women out there actually would be okay with that kind of a Trump reaction. And I'm dying to find out if Trump is going to react to the Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner split. He's had lots to say about Anthony Weiner and his connection, obviously, through Huma to Hillary Clinton. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But for now, the three of you, thank you so much. Jackie Kucinich, Ron Brownstein, and Jason Johnson. Really appreciate it. Thanks.